Hello and welcome to NEO Now. I'm Dave Bacon. Today we shine the spotlight on one of the most important community efforts in Northeast Ohio, the Fishing Foundation. Through hands-on experience, education, and a passion for the outdoors, the Fishing Foundation is helping people of all ages, especially young people, connect with nature, build confidence, and learn lifelong skills. Joining us are Knowles and Gail Grizzell. They are the founders of the Fishing Foundation. For viewers who are hearing about this for the first time, how did it come about and what exactly is the Fishing Foundation?
Well, the Fishing Foundation, we started it in 2010, and it's a nonprofit organization that takes kids fishing, essentially. We found, I'm in a bass club, and for years our bass club would host a family day picnic, and at that picnic kids were invited to come, and we would provide all the rods and reels, and we would do fishing events for the kids. We'd show them how to fish. Unfortunately, my club got away from it. My club, North Coast Bass Anglers, they got away from it. And so I went to Gail and we said, hey, let's maybe do this as a nonprofit and start taking kids fishing. So that was the impetus that started the Fishing Foundation. Again, we're a nonprofit. We take kids fishing throughout the summer. We started doing programming in 2012.
What's the mission? For those that don't fish, what can kids particularly gain from going out and fishing?
Well, thanks for that question, Dave. Our mission is to improve people's lives through the sport of fishing. So when we pull people together, it is to not only teach them to fish, but to love being outdoors and to start to build a lifetime love of fishing.
You told me you fished. What's it done to you? What has fishing done in your life?
Dave, fishing has done a number of things for me. I have learned to appreciate God's gift of the environment and being outdoors, and to not only fish solely, but also to fish with my family members. And it's been a lifelong love of mine. I started when I was 2 years old. I had my cane pole, and when I saw the bobber go down into the water, I told my mom, I'm making contact.
And for me, Dave, I started fishing when I was 12, and I learned to fish with my uncle who lived in Milwaukee. He's deceased now. But every summer, my family, my mother, my family, and my dad, we'd pack it all, and my sister, we'd go to Milwaukee for vacation, and my uncle was an avid fisherman. So for me, it was time spent with my family, similar to Gail, time spent with my family and just being outdoors and just learning to bond with my uncle and my cousins and my siblings, my sister, because we all fished from shore and we would camp, and it just ingrained something in us that we wanted to try and pass along as we became adults when we started creating the Fishing Foundation.
It sounds like, for both of you, that fishing is kind of something that has kind of brought together a family, for lack of a better term. Is that one of the things that's behind this? What's the idea behind fishing and having the kids go out and fish?
Well, what's behind it is to, one, get them outdoors. We primarily serve kids in the inner city, and we know that there's not a lot of resources, not a lot of green and blue spaces. There's a lot of concrete in the city. And so we wanted to give them an opportunity to be outside, to actually see what a fish is, that it doesn't come from McDonald's, but you actually are catching it in this lake, this pond, this river system, and to be outdoors with your friends, to put your cell phones down, to put those electronic devices away for a little while, and to be outside enjoying nature and to see what it's like to catch a fish. There actually are creatures living in this body of water here. And so we want to share some of that, and that's one of the thrills of fishing.
What barriers are there, and how do you break them down? What are the barriers to getting inner city kids to go fishing, and how do you break them down?
Bill?
Well, excuse me, Dave, one of the barriers happens to be the lack of transportation. Many times they cannot find transportation to go to a body of water, a pond, a lake, and there's also resources. Many times there's no funding available to buy rods and reels and what they call the terminal tackle, sinkers, hooks, fishing line. So that's one of the barriers. And with the Fishing Foundation, we strive to help overcome that. We help them with transportation. We help them by providing rods and reels and the terminal tackle and instruction.
And other barriers would include things like just having someone there to take you, to have the time to provide some instructions. You know, we only fish from shore for safety purposes, and there's a lot that goes into learning how to fish and being able to tutor someone. So I remember one story where a young man came up to us after an event, and he said, I always wanted to go fishing, but my dad wasn't available to take me. And that kind of broke my heart, but sometimes I think it's the reality of it, that you may not have someone in your life who has time to do that. And we have found, because we've done surveys, we do pre and post surveys at our events that ask the question, have you been before, and have you always wanted to go fishing? And now that you've been, do you want to go fishing again? And it's always 90% yes, I want to go fishing again. But one of the barriers, to your point, is that sometimes there's just not someone there to do it and to take part in that.
Walk us through what a typical event is like, from how you would get it, and it sounds like there's a bunch of mentors, and how important are they to that program as well?
Yes, our program is designed to take place over about a 4-hour period, and the kids are transported to a location, out in green space, and the program starts with a small video. We have a video set up so that they know what to expect for the day, and then we take them outside to an area where we can actually teach them how to cast, and then they start to fish, and we work with them one-on-one, and then we serve them lunch, and then they fish some more. The wonderful thing is they're so busy loving the opportunity and being outside, they are finished with lunch in 5 minutes. And it's like, I'm going out, I'm heading back to the fish, the fish bank, as we would say at the Grizzell house.
When we first started doing events, we were reaching out to a lot of organizations in Northeast Ohio to partner with, say, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, church groups, to try and find organizations that said, we have 30 kids during a summer program and they would love to go fishing. We'd love to take them fishing. So at the beginning of our organization, when we started, we were looking for partners. Now they come to us because they've heard about us, publicity and things of that nature. They know what we do. We run a solid event. We typically take 200 kids fishing every summer, and since our inception, we think we've taken over 3,000 kids fishing. So it's really partnerships in the community and just kind of word of mouth. Things like your show, getting the word out that we take kids fishing, and that's how it kind of works.
And we have sponsors, funds are raised by through foundations and individuals and corporations that help us provide all of the wonderful events gratis, for the organization and the kids, so that they will take home a rod and a reel, a book, and wonderful memories.
So we talked about life skills a little bit earlier. What kind of life skills do you think they take away from going out to nature and fishing and doing that?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. The life skills are many, actually. You may not equate skills, life skills. You may just think fishing, well, it's a fun event. But actually, there's a lot to be learned from fishing that I've learned personally. I think that kind of translates to other people, and that patience, number one for sure. Fishing involves a lot of patience, waiting for that bite. It also, I think, teaches you organizational skills. When I tournament fish a lot, and as I prepare for an event, a fishing tournament, and even when we prepare our tackle to take kids fishing, Gail and I were thinking about how we organize our gear. You know, making sure that everything is, we have the rods, the bait, the hooks, everything, you have to have it in order. When you go fishing, you want to think about, well, what am I going to wear? What's the weather going to be like? So there's skills of preparing. There's also, unfortunately with fishing, disappointment, how to manage disappointment. You may not catch a fish that day. One other thing that that happens is people skills. We have seen time and time again at our events that one child catches a fish and everyone shares in the enjoyment. So you're working, we've seen kids who learn how to cast really easily go up to their friend and say, hey, let me show you. So fishing is one of those things where you kind of learn along the way, and it's teaching you all kind of skills.
Do you have a story that kind of encapsulates, you know, the program and why you enjoy it and how successful it's been?
I do, Dave. I have a story, and this story was, I think it was last year. Yes, it was last year when we had a group of kids, and a part of that group was a young lady who was legally blind, and she wanted to be like the others. She wanted to fish. She wanted to be able to cast and watch the bobber go below the water, but she couldn't do that, obviously, as a legally blind person. So I worked with her, and I was able to teach her how to cast and how to, once the line was in the water, how to feel the line on her reel and rod so that she knew when she was getting a bite, although she couldn't see the bobber. And she actually, after a couple of tries, we worked together, and she was able to catch a fish. It brought her to tears, and it certainly brought me to tears.
And I have a very quick one that Gail and I were out somewhere, and maybe we were at a big department store or something, but we're walking through the store, and some young man comes up to me, and he looks at me, gives me an odd look, and he says, I know you from somewhere. Do you go do fishing? And I said, yeah. He said, I remember being in one of your events 10 years ago. And he remembered me. And I mean, that just touched my heart that here's this kid that through fishing, he recognized me and came up and spoke and just said hello and thank you. And I was, nearly brought me to tears. So it happens like that with fishing. There's so many memories from fish that come from fishing.
You touched on this a little bit earlier. How important is it to introduce kids to the outdoors in a digital age where everything is on your screen and scrolling, and how important is that, and how have they taken to being outdoors like that?
Well, one, when we start our events, we tell them to turn your cell phones off and put them down, because we won't need them unless you catch a fish and you want to take a picture. But it's very important. Through our research, we found that through looking at reports through Nielsen, that on average kids spend 9 hours a day on a digital device or more. Mm-hmm. And so we want them to put that device down and to enjoy the great outdoors, to commune with nature. At our events, we tell the adult chaperones to literally take the phones away because we won't need them. And so we just think it's very important to stop using your iPads or cell phones at that moment and to come out fishing. That's another reason why we started this, just to get people outside and to enjoy that moment, even if it's for the 4 hours of one of our events, that it's so precious. And so it works out pretty well.
So what's the reception been from the Northeast Ohio community, and then what's next as you move forward?
The reception has been amazing. We have been truly blessed by the connectivity that we've been able to acquire with organizations, with individuals, with church groups. Actually, one of my friends is a therapist, child therapist. She uses our books and our comic. We have a comic strip also to teach her patients, and they come each week and they talk about their anticipation of looking forward to seeing the comic that teaches them about fishing through humor.
And what's next for us, a project that we're working on for this summer, is a partnership with the City of Shaker Heights Police Department. Their Chief Wayne Hudson, he's an avid fisherman. We have been in talks with him. The police department wants to purchase a trailer for us. Well, it's going to be their trailer, but in partnership, where it's a 12-foot by 6-foot trailer that will house all of our fishing gear. We will stock it with the gear, but it'll be their trailer, because the City of Shaker Heights wants to start doing fishing events this summer, and the chief is going to make it available to other police departments in Northeast Ohio, but we will always have our gear in a vehicle that all you need to do is pull up your car, hitch it up, and pull it away. We call it a mobile fishing hub, because in the past, for the last 12 to 15 years since we've been doing these events,
Yes.
every event we would have to rent a U-Haul trailer, put all the gear in, take it out when we get home, put it back in the basement or in our storage shed, which was, you can imagine, a lot of work. But if we always have it available and ready for us in this trailer, this mobile hub, that just makes it more convenient for us and allows us to do more events. So that's what's next for us.
We're going to step aside and take a quick time out. You heard Gail mention the book and the comic strip. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. We're talking with Gail Grizzell and Dennis Knowles from the Fishing Foundation. NEO Now, we'll be right back after this quick break.
The impact of a meal goes well beyond feeding our bodies. Because when people are fed, futures are nourished. Everyone deserves to live a full life. And with your help, together we can end hunger. Join the movement at feedingamerica.org/actnow.
NEO Now continues to shine the spotlight on the Fishing Foundation with Gail Grizzell and Dennis Knowles. We kind of touched on it at the end of last segment. You wrote a book about your experiences, and it's a Learn to Fish, a step-by-step guide for beginning anglers. What inspired you to write it, and what has the reaction been to it?
Actually, Dennis was the catalyst for the book. He had been working on it for 2 or 3 years, just saying that we needed better resources for our participants. And so he decided that after he retired, now was the time to bring the book to fruition.
Yeah, in the book, Dave, we wanted to have an educational tool to give to the kids as a giveaway after our events, takeaway. And we looked online, Amazon and things of that nature, and there's a ton of Learn to Fish books that are out there, but we didn't find any, literally, that had diversity in mind. And we're working with kids primarily in the inner city, an African-American population, and we, as an avid angler and as a former journalist and writer, I knew that I could do this, and we wanted to have it illustrated in a way that portrayed a wide array of people who were fishing. So that was really the impetus behind the the Learn to Fish guide, trying to provide a resource guide with things in it, everything from learning about fishing line, hooks, anatomy of fish, different lures to use, what to take with you when you're fishing. All that is in that guidebook. It's over 100 pages. It's something that when we have the resources, we give to the kids. In addition, at the end of our program, our in-person fishing program, along with a rod and reel, we give to the kids as a takeaway to encourage them to keep fishing.
Who's the book geared to then? Is it the kids? Is it the families? Is it kind of the mentors who were there taking them? I imagine that makes it kind of unique and difficult to figure out.
Well, the book was written for kids 8 to 18. It was a long process of writing the manuscript at first, then working with an editor. She happens to live in Tennessee, and she's our editor. And she looked at some of the language and said it's not appropriate for kids of that age. So she would change some of the wording. She was looking at grammar and punctuation, all those things that we all, as journalists, use with it when you're writing something, an editor. So, but it's geared for 8 to 18, but there is also information in there for a little bit more experienced anglers. If you want to move away from live bait and start fishing with artificials, there's that kind of information in the book. So it's geared for whether you're an adult or a younger person, is geared towards beginning anglers, as the title implies.
And Dave, this book has been vetted by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, through academia, children. We had them read the book and give us feedback. So all of it was 100% positive, and we were so pleased that everyone just loves the illustration.
What do people learn? If I pick up this book, what am I going to learn about fishing? Some quick takeaways from it.
You're going to learn some very rudimentary things, as simple as what kind of bait to use. You know, night crawlers, maggots, insects, things like that. You're going to learn about different hooks and the size of hooks. Hooks come in different size, smaller ones, larger ones. They come in 1/0, 2/0, 3, things like that, different weights. Also, you're going to learn how to set up your rod and reel. We have some simple illustrations that talk about where you place your bobber, where you place your hook, where you place your weight. Casting, we have some simple illustrations about how to cast, how to tie a knot. When you tie a knot going fishing, you're not tying a shoestring knot to fish with. You're tying a clinch knot or a polymer knot, something of that nature. So, and those are fully illustrated. So we try to make it very basic in nature, so that if you know nothing about fishing, which most of the people who come to our events don't, after you've done it with us, you could take this book and you could look at it, and it would reinforce what you learned. You just finished learning in person.
So what I'm hearing is you want fishing to be approachable, not intimidating. Why is that important to you, and why is it important in that book?
Well, fishing should not be looked at as being intimidating. It is the least intimidating sport out there. Why is that? Because in most sports, you have to be a premier athlete to participate. If you want to play basketball, well, you may need to be 6'5" or something like that. If you want to be a football player, you may need to be an outstanding physical athlete to play this. Fishing is not like that. It is the least intimidating sport. Anyone can fish. You don't have to be a super athlete. You just have to have the dexterity to cast a rod and reel. And as Gail just described a little in the first segment, she instructed someone who was sight impaired on how to fish. So that's the beauty of fishing, where it's not intimidating at all to fish.
So the other thing that's happened is you've come up with a comic strip, Hooked. Take us through how that came about.
Actually, Dave, the comic strip Hooked, again, was a brainchild of Dennis's because he wanted to find yet another way to connect with young people. And a comic strip is that, through humor. And we use that to teach them about being good stewards of the environment. We really got a lot of feedback when our comic strip focused on a turtle that was wrapped in a plastic bottle holder container. And oh my gosh, did that resonate with everyone. And so that's what we're hoping that the comic strip will do. And again, as I mentioned, it is used by a friend of mine that's a therapist to help children that are her clients learn about fishing, but using humor.
And can I just jump in
Oh,
with
absolutely.
that? Thank you. Hooked was an outgrowth of the Learn to Fish guide, actually. If you look at the cover of the book, you see 3 characters on the front cover. Samantha, Alex, and Jesus. And those characters, and a 4th one, Danny, are the main characters in Hooked, the comic strip. And we wanted to be able to tell these stories because that's really what we're trying to do in these 3-panel comic strips, which appeared in Signal Cleveland for a while for the last 2.5 years. Unfortunately, that relationship has ended, but we do share the comic strip in our newsletter. And it was just another way for us to market and promote the Fishing Foundation and fishing itself. So it's some of as Gail mentioned, this one comic strip featured this turtle being caught in one of those, when you have a 6-pack of beer, really, and they had that plastic wrap on it, it was caught on the turtle's neck. And we showed the kids taking it off, and it really resonated. We've had other stories in there about, but really the story of the Hook, it's about these kids in Northeast Ohio who decide to start a bass fishing club. And that's really where Hook jumps off from. And they just go through these adventures of fishing. And we're now looking for a new partner to carry the comic strip. So if you know anyone out there, let us know.
Dennis Knowles, Gail Grizzell, thanks so much. Keep up the great work with the Fishing Foundation. We appreciate the time, and it truly is. It sounds great. So great stuff. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you very much for having us on. Thank you.
That's going to do it for this edition of NEO Now. We hope you've enjoyed getting to know what goes on with the Fishing Foundation with Dennis and Gail. We'll see you again next time on NEO Now. Have a great night, everyone.